Hey YouTubers, thanks for tuning in. Brought you another video today. I wanted to show you something that a lot of people struggle with is setting up their scope and getting it level. And what I mean by that is leveling the reticle to the gun, leveling the reticle to the world, and so forth. This is a method that I learned. I did not develop this. Actually, another YouTuber had a great video on how to do this. I made another one because hopefully it'll clarify a little things that weren't explained in his video, and so I'm going to make this as short and sweet. I'm not going to go into any explanation on why you need to level your reticle. If you're new to long range shooting and you don't quite understand that concept, there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube to explain that to you. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to basically set up your level on your gun. Doesn't matter what style of gun that you have, with really minimal tools. What I've got here is I've got a 4-foot construction level. I've got another smaller level. What I don't have here in today's video is my plumb bob. That's in my truck, which happens to be getting worked on right now. But what I've done here is I've taken my 4-foot level, and hopefully you guys can see it. If not, I'll zoom in here in just a second. There's a line that I painted on my wall here behind the gun, and I shouldn't say painted on, that I've used a marker with. And all I did was, I set up the 4-foot level on the wall, and I used this position because of the way that I've got this set up here. And I made sure that this line was level. And after making sure that the line was level, using obviously the bubbles on the level itself, I used my plumb bob to make sure that it was in fact level, because you can get a little bit of error sometimes with these construction levels. If you've got a really nice DeWalt one, I think that's probably pretty trustworthy. This is not a really nice DeWalt one. This is a pretty cheap level. So I wanted to make sure that my line on the wall was level. I took a fine tip Sharpie. That's all you need to put a little line on the wall. You don't want to use a big heavy marker such as like this permanent marker. It's just going to give you too much of a line. You want a pretty fine line. The only other tools you need really are a good flashlight. I prefer to use this mag light. You can really use any flashlight, but the mag light works really well because you can control the beam angle and the beam size and whatnot. So let's get down to the basics. What do you need to do? Well, you got to have some tools to install your scope. This is a nice little inch-pound torque wrench, for installing scopes. This one's already set up. It's already done. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of details on how to do that, but essentially, get your eye relief set up where you want it roughly on the gun. You need to have a good quality level on your gun. This one here is, I don't even know what brand it is. It's something that I picked up from a friend, actually for a friend's gun, and I ended up putting it on mine because I liked it. So what do you need? You need a level. You need obviously your scope rings and your scope. And as far as tools, again, really it's the torque wrench, a flashlight, a couple of levels, maybe a plumb bob. If you've got a trusty level, you don't even need a plumb bob. You want to get the rifle as close to the wall as you can. Here with this setup that I've got, this is as close as I can get. So let's get down to it. So once you get a line painted on the wall, I'm going to zoom in so hopefully you guys can see that. Bear my camera here. You can see the line. It's a little blurry there. See if I can get it to focus. You can see the line on the wall. I'm going to show you just in a moment the next steps. And I'm going to turn off some of the light just so that we can see a little bit better here. Alright, so what do you do? Mount your level on the scope. And there's a couple of different ways people can use other tools to get this accomplished. One of the tools that I use here, and actually let's turn the light back on for a second, is this straight shot reticle level. Excuse me. And what this does is this end comes off. You slide it through here. Hopefully you can see what I'm looking at. Let's go back here. And there's a rubber band that comes with this. And essentially you loop the rubber band through the action or underneath the action into these two hooks here. And that'll pull this tight down against the action itself. Let's turn it around so you can see this side. And some people find it really important to make sure that the gun is level with the reticle. That's really not important. What's important is that your bubble is level with the reticle. Your scope level is level with the reticle in the scope. Not necessarily the action on the gun. You can have it that way, but it's not really important. What's important is that the gun is comfortable for you in the shooting position, whether you shoot prone, whether you shoot bench rest, or whatever the case may be. Some guys like their gun canted just a little bit because our shoulder pockets aren't really level to the world either. And therefore, some people like to have their gun canted a little bit in order for them to shoot comfortably. Because really, again, what's important is that this level is level with the reticle in your scope. And why is this better, or why is this method better than the other methods? You know, a lot of people use levels on top of the scopes. Some guys use levels on the underside of the scope. Well, we don't know for certain whether this portion of the scope, which is a pretty small surface, is actually truly level to the actual reticle, which is etched on the glass inside the scope. So this method works a lot better. It's a lot simpler. It takes less tools. I don't need any levels on top of the scope or anything like that. If you can see here, I've got the level on the scope pretty level, but the level on the gun is not. You can see it's just barely off just a little bit. And the reason that is because I like my gun canted just a little bit. That's where it's comfortable for me. Like I said, I've already got this one set up. So if you don't have this type of a device to make sure that your action is level, that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Again, get it relatively close to where you think it is, and you don't need this device to make sure that your reticle is level to the world. It helps, but it's not 100% necessary. Wheeler makes, and I've got one right here. Wheeler makes one of these, and this can slide into a Remington action, and it'll go inside the receiver, and it'll sit on the action rails. And this definitely helps get the gun level if that's something you're interested in. But again, it's not needed. You don't need that to perform this function. So let's turn off the light here. And I'm going to show you what we've got going on here. And I might zoom back out, or zoom in just here a little bit, so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to hold the flashlight up, and I've already got this adjusted just to save a little bit of time, but essentially I'm going to hold it right up to the scope. And if you can see here, you can see that I've got the reticle already lined up with my line. I did a little bit of preparation here and got it set up for you. And all I do is I move the front of this gun vise so that the scope eventually lines up with the reticle. It's not really important for the gun to be level this direction. You know, if you're using a bipod, if you don't have a gun vise or something like this, you've got a bipod or something that you can set your rifle on to hold it in place. That's fine. You don't have to have a gun vise, and it doesn't have to be level this way. It has to be level this way, correct? So again, I'm going to zoom in here on the wall so you can get a better view of what I'm talking about, and hopefully it will focus. Yeah, maybe you just want to focus on the gun here, and I apologize for that. But hopefully, let's take a look at this and see if this works out. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your reticle is level to this line right here, the line that we drew on the wall, right? And one of the things you need to do is you need to have your scope on full power, especially for first focal plane reticles. Make sure that you're zoomed all the way up, because if you're not, it's going to make it really hard to see that reticle against your plumb line. So make sure that you're zoomed all the way up. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to take your diopter adjustment, so your focus here, and I've got mine turned all the way out. Typically, when I'm got my gun set up to hunt, if you guys can see that, hopefully it's clear enough. It's really blurry and you can't see it. And so what I'll do is I'll take my focus ring here and I'll dial that all the way out, and you can see how nicely that reticle comes into clarity. So, and what I've done here is, like I said, I've already set this one up. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I'll move the reticle off of that line so that you can see both the reticle now and my line on the wall. Hopefully you can see that clearly in the video. And so all you need to do, like I said before, is just kind of move it up. You can actually, instead of laying it right over top of that line, you can lay it right next to that line, and then you can look at it really closely, and you can look at the margin between the top and the bottom to make sure that that margin is consistent. And hopefully you can see, and I'm not blocking your view here. It is. It's right on the money. So this one's set up. Now, what do you do if it's not set up properly? Well, obviously, really, honestly, all you need to do is rotate the gun to the proper, I'm going to say, let's say this is what you get when you first set up and everything. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's pretty on level hill. Well, all you need to do is rotate the gun until the reticle is lined up with your mark on the wall, and now you would adjust your bubble so that it's level. It's that simple. Again, if it's way off canted, level the gun, rotate the gun into your vise or on your bipod or whatever you have to hold the gun in place. Once you get it level, now all you would do is move your level on your gun so that it's level. Does that make sense? So make sure that your bubble fits in between the lines and you're set up. And that's it. That's all it takes. Whatever this has got, I think this has got a little lever mechanism on it. And so all it has is one screw on this side to move that bubble. And so all they would do is move that bubble to where it's level with the reticle, and you're set. That's all you need to do. Now, if you wanted to level it to the gun, it takes a little bit more. You would need to make sure that the screws on your scope rings are loose so that you can adjust. You'd want to level this and then level this to match it. All right, so I hope that explains everything for you guys. If you have any questions, post it in the comments. I'll answer it for you. All right, YouTubers, I'm back. I wanted to show you a little bit better angle of the reticle on the wall to give you an idea what we're talking about. After watching the video that I just made for you, I realized it wasn't really clear. So let's see if we can clear this up a little bit and get this thing set up so that you can see what I'm talking about here. And hopefully you can. Now, I'm not going to be able to use my hands here as much, but what I want to do is just point out that the reticle itself is perpendicular with the line on the wall. I'm going to move the gun a little bit here to show you what it looks like when it's not. There you can see the reticle is not square to the wall. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the reticle over so that it's square to the line on the wall. And then I'm going to adjust the scope level to make sure that the scope level is correct. What I was talking about earlier, and hopefully it'll show up on the video, is one thing you can do is you can actually move the front of the rifle or the front of the vise here over just a little bit, and you can see, hopefully, one thing you can do to really make sure it's as level as possible is you can compare the margin, the difference between the space between the reticle itself and the line on the wall on both the top and bottom. And you could even get out, if you really wanted to be crazy about this, one thing you could do, and it's one thing I could do as well, is I could go and I could take a ruler across this line here, and I could mark out in millimeters tick marks vertically across the wall. You could do that on the top and the bottom, and that would let you exactly count how many millimeters away from the line it is, so that you knew that you were exactly on. I don't really think that's necessary. I think that's being a little bit over anal. I think all you really need to do is just slide it over and get it so that it's just touching that line, and then obviously get as close to it as you can with your eyes so that you can see it and make sure that it's set up. So hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully that's a little more clear view for y'all. And like I said again, make sure that your diopter, your focus ring here is adjusted. I'm turning it out right now. Normally right about there is where it would be set if I was shooting or hunting with this gun. but you want to make sure that you dial it until your reticle is nice and clear. It may not be as clear as you want it, but it'll get clear enough so that you can see it. And then again, just make sure that it's level. And once it's level to the wall, to the line on the wall, then you want to make sure that your scope level is level as well, which in this case, we're right on the money. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. Again, if you have any questions or comments, post them in the line below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.